We reject our crazies. It's time for you guys to reject him.
Okay.
Give me a crazy person, I'll reject him.
Donald Trump.
See, that's your problem. He's not crazy. That's your problem. Everything in the restaurant to like the restaurant. There are things, I go to a restaurant, I don't eat any seafood, but I like that restaurant because it's got steak. There are things that Trump will do that I will disagree with, but the entire package is as close as you're going to get to what Americans want. Trump is redefining basically what a human being can do in 24 hours. If your name has the word sun in it, there's no excuse for not knowing how an eclipse works. But it's no surprise that Joy is the one who understands science. She's been on the science diet for years. Loves Diet Coke, but hates the woke. Choosing this insanity over Sean Hannity. Let's crank it up to 11 for President 45 and 47. The man who finally made no difference at 6'2", fighting out of the red corner from Queens, New York, the 45th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
All right, everyone, brace yourselves for what has to be one of the most intense showdowns on live TV. So there was this epic clash between Greg Gutfeld and Jessica Tarlov that left everyone at the edge of their seats. You know, Gutfeld really pulled out the big guns, using humor and, well, some sarcasm, to pull apart Tarlov's strong views on Trump's policies.
What is your favorite, if you had to pick one, executive order?
My favorite as a Democrat or my favorite as an American?
I don't see why you should differentiate.
Well, because there is some partisanship going on in all of this. And
so
there are
you
points
admit
to be
that
made.
some partisanship is un-American?
I think to some degree, of course. I think
Thank you.
There is some consensus to be had in this. And, you know, like the back to work policy, that will penalize some people that I think have legitimate reason to need to work from home. And hopefully they'll be able to make their case, whether that's they, you know, taking care of a loved one, they maybe have moved during the pandemic and are still doing their job effectively. But I think it's a good thing that people are in their office.
Like, it was just this fierce back and forth, right? And honestly, seeing Gutfeld challenge the status quo in such an unapologetic way, just seriously, it was electrifying. These TV moments are exactly what we live for, aren't they? Anyway, I really do encourage you to subscribe. Hitting 1,000 subscribers by February would just like literally make my day and keep this channel going strong. So click subscribe and, you know, let's make it happen together. All right, so now let's dive deep into what actually went down. Greg Gutfeld and Jessica Tarlov, two giants of political debate, and, well, the verbal sparring between them was nothing short of intense. Seriously, it all started as a regular segment on Fox News, but it quickly escalated into something, you know, far more compelling.
I think some of the DEI programs went too far, and everyone has accepted that in the public and the private sector, right? You have a huge surge of roles in companies, large and small, after the murder of George Floyd, and a lot of them have just quietly gotten rid of them even before it was clear that Donald Trump was going to win again. So I think that we can talk about things like that. That you can even talk about the EV mandate. All of the automakers who share the same aspirations and goals as former President Biden have said we're not going to make our targets. So obviously we need to reassess that to some degree. But when the judge says, you know, this is what the people voted for, some of it they absolutely did not. And Donald Trump promised that he would bring your costs down right away. And he revoked Biden's policy to lower prescription drug prices or to make it so Medicare can't negotiate itself for prescription drug prices. That's not cool.
Gutfeld had this kind of uncanny ability to take Tarlov's arguments about Trump's policies, like, you know, his immigration stances and executive orders, and dissect them in a way that honestly just left everyone speechless.
Did more in a day than Biden did in his damn career, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting. He had 3 balls last night. That's 3 more than Adam Kinzinger. The guy hasn't slept in 2 days. I mean, the thing is, it's amazing. It's possible. It is possible Donald Trump could complete his presidency in 3 months. Right. And then he could just say, you know what?
Is that a promise?
He goes, you know what, JD, you take it from here. I think I did everything I could do. It's incredible. And by the way, you brought up, and you said it was a good thing, you know, the fact that like these people have to go back to work, but then you mentioned all these challenges they have. Well, welcome to America. Every single one of us has a challenge, but yet we come to work. I'm not going to pay for their porn addiction. If they want to sit home in front of Pornhub and go, I have chronic fatigue syndrome. You know what? Everybody in America could stay home because they have a sick loved one or a baby, but they aren't. They're coming to work. They should go. I'm glad that he got rid of the appointees. I need work around the house. I pay well.
And yeah, sure, it's his thing, right? But when he started sort of breaking down each point with his signature blend of humor and sharp critique, it was like watching a master at work. You see, Tarlov threw out a few digs of her own, trying to redirect the conversation back to her perspective.
Pretend that I'm not talking to Jessica, but I'm talking to the whole Democratic Party. So liberals, in their very best sense, are the party of empathy and compassion. Their problem is they extend that benefit to people who prey upon innocent citizens. That is their problem. They don't know the boundaries to their compassion or their empathy, and that's why they need conservatives to say, hey, knock it off, pull back. But why do liberals have to accept certain positions that are that bad? Like, why do they have to make excuses for rioters and looters? That is not necessarily a liberal position. They don't have to do it. So if you think of other liberal positions, arguing for surgical transitions for children, banning school choice, funding foreign wars, bailing out phalanx. What if these aren't liberal positions? They're just awful ones. Then you could reject them. You don't have to sit here and defend tampons for boys. You could just say, you know what, there's nothing liberal about that.
At one point, she really focused on the DEI programs and tried making the case that they're trademarks of American progress. But Gutfeld, like the firebrand he is, cracked them open by arguing how basically they've gone too far and how Trump was sort of right to pull back or reassess. Think about it, right? These exchanges are not just empty words, they reflect real issues, the kind that keep so many Americans up at night. So, Gutfeld's ability to tug at those strings, that's what kept the audience glued there. I mean, you could almost feel the collective nod from viewers across the country who agreed. And, oh, let's not forget when Jessica brought up the infamous Trump's executive orders are all bad argument. Greg, he wasn't standing for it. With a bit of clever wordplay, he reminded everyone of the positive outcomes of some Trump policies. Like, I don't know, maybe his regulatory rollbacks or decisions that actually bolstered economic growth. But here's the kicker. The back and forth didn't just stop there. Jessica tried to aim the conversation towards Trump's misuse of the EV mandates, arguing that America isn't meeting its green targets.
As former President Biden have said, we're not going to make our targets. So obviously we need to reassess that to some degree. But when the judge says, this is what the people voted for, some of it they absolutely did not. And Donald Trump promised that he would bring your costs down right away. And he revoked Biden's policy to lower prescription drug prices or to make it so Medicare can't negotiate itself for prescription drug prices. That's not cool.
Where is that? Where is that?
It's, look in the list.
Well, show me.
Well, what do you mean?
There's a lot more to that issue. But
yeah.
Okay. Did the American people on November 5th vote for 1,660 Afghans who are being resettled here, have gone through the government process, people who helped us during the war in Afghanistan, which is translators, risking their lives, people who are on target lists for the Taliban, they had their flights canceled.
The answer is yes, they did vote for it.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
If you sat there...
Yes,
Well, Gutfeld hit back, pointing out how most automakers agreed that achieving those targets was unrealistic. And honestly, it kind of highlighted how sometimes these well-intentioned plans can fall flat when faced with real-world challenges. Well, it was during this part when tensions really started to skyrocket.
citizenship meant.
Well, I think when Donald Trump was talking about it and disparaging people over here, he was talking about undocumented people who come and drop their anchor babies. He wasn't talking about people who are here on student visas, people who are here on H-1B visas.
You're always going to choose this weird exception.
No,
the fact is the system is being gamed. Americans voted for Donald Trump because they saw these systems, these institutions being gamed. The asylum issue, the birthright citizen issue, Title IX issues. Every single part of society was being gamed by the left. And finally, Americans got pushed too far. The point is, you don't have to like everything in the restaurant to like the restaurant. There are things, I go to a restaurant, I don't eat any seafood, but I like that restaurant because it's got steak. There are things that Trump will do that I will disagree with, but the entire package is as close as you're going to get to what Americans want. Trump is redefining basically what a human being can do in 24 hours.
Gutfeld, in his unique fashion, illustrated how the voters agreed with Trump's vision, especially on issues like border control and energy independence. And remember how Jessica tried to, justify the costs involved and the supposed failings of the Trump administration on drug prices? Well, Gutfeld was not having any of it. Greg pointed out how, under Trump, the The attempts to lower prescription costs through competitive pricing and negotiation reflected a tangible break from traditional bureaucratic inertia.
Right? Only nut jobs want kids to have nut jobs. It's not about being liberal or conservative. But the problem is the Democrats have allowed radicals to define what is liberal. So tampons for boys, suddenly, Jessica, you have to defend it. You shouldn't have to. You know, liberals were always against conversion therapy. That was a psychological attempt at curing homosexuality. Now they're defending invasive surgical solutions to do the same thing. How did that become liberal and the other one not? So it's a plea that, like, you don't have to defend this crap. You don't have to defend tampons for boys. You should laugh at it and go, this is bullshit. I don't believe any of it. And then all of a sudden you find that the Democrats and the Republicans are in the same room again. We reject our crazies. It's time for you guys to reject them.
It was a solid point, and you got the sense that Tarlov kind of felt cornered. It was this high point in the debate. You could see the sparks flying between their viewpoints. Now, when Jessica sort of attempted to compare the withdrawal from Afghanistan to some of Trump's bold decisions, as if equating a military withdrawal to executive policy, it really came across as a stretch.
I got to bring up the Nazi hoax thing because we all know this is BS. And yet the media is redefining losing every single day. Day one, they say Elon Musk made a Nazi salute. Right. And I'm beginning to think, they know they're lying. So why are they doing this? Because they realize they cannot rebuild their credibility. They're like a fat guy on death row. What's the point in dieting? You're already dead.
Gutfeld's response was swift and razor sharp, bringing home the idea that Trump didn't hide his intentions and, in fact, actually stood by American servicemen and the Afghan people who assisted them.
Huh?
Okay.
Give me a crazy person. I'll reject him.
Donald Trump.
See, that's your problem. He's not crazy. That's your problem.
That is exactly the problem.
There's nothing that he believes in that comes close to tampons for boys or for pushing trans surgeries on children because they're suffering from a psychological delusion. There's nothing like that in the conservative movement. But you Democrats have embraced these things because they're so scared of being called lack of compassion.
Moreover, Gutfeld's frustration with the liberal mindset, where it seems there's this reflex to defend irrational positions under the veil of empathy, got people thinking. And maybe it's a bit controversial, but when he pointed out that sometimes empathy needs boundaries, it resonated with many who feel drowned in what they see as excessive political correctness. Just to wrap it up, what I find really compelling is how Gutfeld smoothly transitioned the discussion towards more fundamental issues like, well, the Democratic leadership's failure to condemn extreme left policies. He argued passionately that conservatives need to step up and define sane liberal positions, hinting that perhaps it's time Democrats do some introspection and reject their radicals. Well, towards the end of this heated discussion, most would agree that Greg definitely had the audience pondering. His ability to highlight inconsistencies, or just flat-out ridicule attempts to defend questionable policies, isn't just entertaining.
COVID and injecting bleach into...
Oh, come on.
That's a hoax.
We're talking
no one said injecting bleach. Please look it up. Please look it up.
Okay.
We'll do it in real time.
Product?
Go.
Talking about
it never happened.
It never happened.
You are literally living
airborne?
in a delusion right now.
Oh.
That never was said. Do the research.
Okay.
No one ever said injecting bleach. Look it up. It's been debunked. That's just like the fine people hoax.
But that's not even... That's a
I hate
pivot.
having to fix these things in real time.
It's thought-provoking. And I guess that's the beauty of having commentators like Gutfeld. They don't just provide comic relief. They make you think, question, and in some cases, reassess your views. So, what do you guys think about all this heated debate? Was Gutfeld spot on, or do you find yourself leaning towards Jessica's perspective a bit more? I'd love to know what you think. Drop your comments below and let's get this conversation rolling.